Good morning, everyone. This is the Friday, December 9th edition of Abel Marketing's Facebook Live. And we're coming to you live from the Abel Marketing Facebook page. And I'm streaming it through a product called Restream.io. I'll save this video for after we do the live, and I'll put it up on my YouTube channel. And so thank you to Rachel Lee. And we have a specific topic for today. I'm going to share the title of the topic in the chat, and I'm going to introduce Rachel, and I'm going to start with 5 reasons why you're not attracting the right clients. Is the theme of today's Facebook Live, and I'm going to swap the picture around so Rachel is in focus because she's the guest and she's the star. So 5 reasons why you're not attracting the right clients. Now, I don't know about you, and I don't mean you, Rachel, but I know for me as a marketing person, how much I've had to focus on this in helping clients that I've had, but also how much, and there's so many ways we can do this discussion, right? How many times I've had to do this for myself, to get the right clients. So why don't we start there? Why don't you kick it off by introducing yourself, and then also explaining a little bit about what led you to write the article itself?
I love that question. But first and foremost, let me say hello to everybody who's watching. My name is Rachel, and I'm a personal brand strategist based in Vancouver, Canada. I work together with impact-driven entrepreneurs who are the front face of their business to present themselves online with confidence. That's the short version of it anyway, but
Right.
I wanted to dive into, the reason why I wrote this blog post. And it actually started off with a big reflection for myself. I feel like with the end of the year coming around, everybody is in a very reflective mood. We're asking yourself a lot of tough and honest questions about
I think you're right.
what didn't work for me this year, right? Like we're trying to optimize and improve for the next year. And one of the questions that came up for myself was, based on the number of people that I've worked with this year, what worked, what totally lit me up and made me want to show up to work every day, and what didn't quite work so well that I might want to avoid for the following year. And as both you and I know, everyone's an amazing human being, but when it comes to having a working relationship, sometimes it's just not a good fit. And it's not anything about the person, but maybe it's their working style. Maybe they just see the project from a different perspective. Maybe the stage that they're at in their business isn't actually the right fit for where you're at with your offers and services. So as I got to that point in my business where I had to sit myself down and ask myself the honest question of, am I happy with the people that I'm working with? And some people it was yes, and some people it was no. And I realized that everyone is probably in the same boat, wondering the same things, because we only want to work with people who light us up in the following year. So I thought, okay, well, since everyone's in a reflective mood, why don't I lead in with a blog post to at least even put down some of the initial thoughts that I had, and also just observed through conversations I've had with other people about the tough things that they're struggling with when it comes to connecting with the right audience. So that's why I started writing the blog post.
That's really interesting because, like I've struggled with it a lot too. And you and I met through the Connect and Collaborate group, and we've taken some of Marshall Stern's programs, like the Create program. And I've been working on this again too, actually, because I was looking at my own calendar, and I have client work, and then I have time where I'm trying to do other work. And sometimes people from the outside see you, friends or family, and they think that you're working, but you're not earning money. Or they wonder what you're doing, and you're like, well, I'm actually working on this. And they're like, well, what's this? I'm like, well, this is what it is. And it's this blog post, or stuff in your business related to this kind of blog post. Right. And so I've been doing it recently because I have time in my calendar that I had left over from Create time, and I just left it in there. And I thought I've got to start figuring out how in 2023 with money I have in a budget, to try and attract the right clients. And I know, a lot of the
Mhm.
time through process of trial and error, elimination, meeting people, who those people are. And I think that you and I have discussed this in the Connect and Collaborate group, but I think we agreed that you and I would probably work well together, just because of the natures of the type of work that we do. And I've been focusing these days on things like copywriting. And so
Yeah.
that's why I wanted to have you on today, because this is very topical and relevant for me these days. But I also think
Mm.
pretty much from the people that we've met in different groups, and we're in some of the same groups, it's pretty much always relevant for all of us, because when you attract the right clients, and I'm not trying to make this too basic, but a lot of it comes down to money, right? And we've all been in situations where you're not attracting the right clients. And one of the main sticking points is price and cost and paying you,
Mm.
right? And so
Yeah.
I even notice it these days sometimes when I'm out in places where I'm shopping or there's salespeople, and people, the first thing they always do is they're like, well, what's the discount? What's this? And I finally said to a salesperson once, I'm like, this person's not your customer. And the person kind of looked at me and they're like, why not? I'm like, because the first thing they do is ask for a discount. And yeah, it's great to ask for
Mm.
discounts, but like
Yeah.
I'm all for tire kicking, but anybody these days
Mm.
who's ready to buy and wants to buy, they just go in and buy it. They don't, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like when you're talking about attracting the right clients, and I want your feedback too, they've already
Mm.
made a purchasing decision. They've already looked at the things like, what problem does it solve? They've already looked at things like, how
Mm.
is this going to help make my life better? They don't necessarily care about the
Mm.
price if they've come to that conclusion, and they may not have even come to the conclusion or realized the
Mm.
psychology behind it. They just know what they have to do, and so they do it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And it's simply because when we discount our products and services, we're essentially saying that what I have to bring to the table, I'm okay with devaluing it. I'm okay with
Right.
causing harm to myself and my business for the sake of making you happy. And
Yeah.
I don't believe that's a position that we should be leading in with when we're going out to serve our clients, because and any business owner would agree, is we started up our business so that we can create a mutually beneficial relationship between us and our clients. And
That's
that's
right.
why even when I'm in this position where I want to, I think a better way of saying it is sweeten the deal for my clients. Instead of
Right.
taking away from my pricing and saying I'm going to give you like a 10 or 15% discount, what I like to do
Right.
instead is to add value. So I would say,
Right.
for example, if you sign on with this two package bundle with me,
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you a price break, but what I'm happy to do is add all of these awesome bonuses on top, because I'm here to serve and make your life easier. And that's basically a gesture of adding on top and giving more rather than taking away, and then putting myself in a position where I might come at the project feeling resentful and feeling like I've
Right.
devalued my services, and then training my clients to also think that way and understand that, oh, hey, she's okay with devaluing her services. Then next time I come to her, I'm going to expect the same. When I refer clients over, I'm going to expect the same. And we don't ever want to put ourselves in that position. And also, neither do we want to put ourselves in a position where we're working with the wrong clients. And any good business owner knows we're always trying to get feedback about, hey, what's working? Is this helping you? How's this experience?
Right.
And when you're working with the wrong client and you get the feedback from them
Yeah.
about your services, it's going to be skewed, and you're going to end up
Right.
building your business in a way for the wrong people. And I've done this for the first 3 years of my business. I actually ended up
Same.
listening to all of the wrong people. And then
Yep.
I ended up in a position where I started questioning the value that I brought to the
Yeah.
table. I started to
Yeah.
feel like I wasn't actually helping anybody, when in
Right.
reality, I just wasn't gathering feedback from the right people. It
Right.
wasn't until this year actually where I signed on, and I would call them my dream clients because I love them to pieces. Every time I see an email from them, I open my inbox and I'm like, oh my God, like what did they say? Like I genuinely get
Right.
excited. And
Right.
it wasn't until I signed on clients like that did I realize, oh, I am actually making an impact. It's just what I was doing before is I was basing the sense of value that I've
Mm,
placed on my services based on the feedback from the wrong people, which would lead you down a rabbit hole that you don't want to go down as a business owner. So that's
mhm.
just like a quick overview of why it's important for us to be careful about who we decide to let in through the door when we work together with them.
Exactly. I've had so many experiences like that too. I had experience where I applied for one writing role, and I do the sports freelance writing kind of on the side, and
Mm,
it turned out really well. It's almost like a dream client. I was
wow.
asked to rewrite one article, but I don't even have to ask to be paid. I don't have to
Mm,
send invoices. I have an agreed rate per USD for the article, and it's working
amazing.
really well. I had another one where it was a similar thing. Please write a sample. And even at the first step, I knew it was a red flag. Please write a sports sample. The
Mm,
one opportunity client that's worked out, the guy offered to pay for the sample. Bingo. Versus another
yeah.
guy who didn't offer to pay anything. Okay, I'll write the
Mm,
sample anyway. Okay. Oh, well, the unpaid one, here's the feedback on the sample. I'm like, okay, thanks. He's like, are you able to
yeah.
rewrite that paid sample, that free sample again? No.
What?
No. Thank you for the feedback.
Jeez.
Here's 2 articles from another site that I'm writing for that's paid. I'll leave it to you. I sent an
Mm,
email to for you to decide whether I'm a good sports writer or not. The response I got back was, well, thanks
mm,
for the honesty, but you don't meet our high standards for writing.
what
Okay.
the
So
heck?
you asked me to write for free. I write something. You asked me to rewrite it again as a fresh sample.
Mm,
You never offer to pay. And that's your feedback about, I don't meet your high standards. So there you
oh
go, right? There's a
man.
classic example, right? And then you get an ideal client where it's a sports
Mm,
site. And like you have a relationship with them, and they even ask you to do a rewrite on an article. They said where the content was great, he'll
mm,
pay me if I do the rewrite, but he's like, some of the content is just too close to research in Google, and some of the words were flagged. I said, I'll happily rewrite it for you. Great. Rewrote, next day, here's
mm,
your pay. So there again, what
mm.
we've been talking about, right? You got somebody who keeps asking for
Yeah.
free samples and free rewrites, never offers to pay, and then says you don't meet their high standards when you won't rewrite it.
Red
Hmm.
flags all over that.
Right.
But I've been in situations like that before, and that's where it's difficult, especially if you're a creative service provider. I often find that we are in this position where whoever is hiring is looking to, and I don't want to say that their intention is to source free work, but I
No.
feel like the angle which they approach it is essentially devaluing us because
Yeah.
that's the reason why we have portfolios. Even for me as a somebody who provides a creative service, every
Yeah.
time somebody is, just making sure that I'm the right fit to be helping them with their business, I totally get it. I actually am happy to provide samples. That's why we've got portfolios. But the
Yeah.
moment that somebody asks me to design something for free or do any sort of pro bono work to qualify myself for a job,
Yeah.
that is a huge red flag because
Yeah.
anybody in the job market knows that you should be compensated fairly for your time.
That's
And
right.
whatever relevant samples of work you bring with
Yeah.
you should be enough to serve as proof. And if they can't get what they need from looking at your portfolio, chances are they're not going to be a good fit anyway. So, yes,
Yeah,
for
it's
anyone in
interesting. I
creative
mean, I
services,
learned that
steer
experience, and
clear.
it's good that you're able to give me feedback on how to learn from that experience and then move forward with it positively, because that's ultimately what you have
Mm,
to do. But yeah, no, those are red flag opportunities, right? Like you're like,
mm,
it also says to me, as someone who's experienced in marketing and sort of copywriting, it says to me that you have no concept of how to hire writers, or
mm,
have any idea how to manage a process like this. It's just, you have absolutely no concept, right? It's just like you're
yeah.
just kind of looking for stuff or throwing stuff at the wall, or you don't really have a
Mm,
strategy, or anything like that. You're just going to try and find writers. And then the ironic part of it is too, well, you're a content driven website for sports content. So what kind of
mm,
content are you going to get with that kind of standard, that lack of knowledge about the recruiting process of hiring writers, and then wanting to run a site where the whole reason people come to it is to get sports betting advice, right? It's just, it's baffling.
It's a bad look. And one thing that I want to add here even is that this is just a slight perspective shift, because I know that when we're entering into a potential working agreement with somebody,
Right.
we often have this mindset that they're auditioning us because they're hiring us, and we
Right.
have to, do the little dance or do whatever it is to make them happy, so they hire us. But one huge perspective shift that I had from one of the coaches that I've worked with is actually to flip that script around and see it
Yeah.
as we're actually auditioning our clients, because it is an honor and a privilege for them to work with us, because they're the ones who are approaching us for help.
Yeah.
And we are in that position where we get to have a say in, yes, you are a good fit. It would be amazing for us to work together. Or, hey, it seems like we might not be a good fit because of whatever reason. Thank you for expressing interest, but I might not be the right person. Here's somebody else who might be able to serve you better, right? Like,
Yeah.
and you could do
Exactly.
it with so much, we could still do it with love and kindness. And I don't mean this in
Yeah.
any egotistical or derogative way,
No,
but
I don't think you're
it's
being
important for
egotistical
us
at all.
to, yeah, it's just important for us to even see it from that perspective, because the question is always like, are we a good fit? And if the answer is no, you don't have to walk away with any hard feelings. But for
No.
whatever reason, I think it is still difficult for both parties, like either
Yeah.
the client or for us, to say, no, you're out of my budget. We might not work well together, or whatever it is. I know saying
Yeah.
no is hard, but it's doable with love and kindness when you just put in enough reps. It just takes a bit of practice.
It does. And I think sometimes, like we've said before too, I know that we've talked about this in the Connect and Collaborate group sometimes, and I feel this too sometimes the best way to learn, even though it's not nice, is the hard way.
Yeah.
Right. It's not a
Yeah.
fun way to learn, but you certainly learn it, and you certainly can pass it on to others about, their experience. But what I want to do now, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Let's
Yeah.
start. I've shared the article, but let's start. Maybe you want to elaborate a little bit, and I'll drop it in the chat so people can see. Is the first question, the first point in the article, because I want to give you the opportunity to plug the article a little bit, so people will reach out to you for work. But I've shared reason number 1. You're not clear on exactly who you want to be attracting.
Yes, this is honestly the biggest reason why people aren't attracting the right audience. And it's because it's almost like what we were talking about before, where you just don't know what you're looking for. And
Right.
if you're not clear on who exactly it is that you want to be attracting, chances are that the message that you're putting out isn't going to be bringing in the right people. It's going to be vague and fuzzy around the edges. So basically all of the points that I talk about in the blog post, it's just a follow up and expansion of this one big point at the top.
Right.
And I know that some people, when I ask a lot of business owners, I'm like, do you know who it is that you're looking to attract? And most of them will say, yeah, I do. And then they'll just list out a very basic description of who it is they're looking to attract. Maybe they're like, I work with engineering companies in architecture and engineering who have like small teams. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's great, but there's a lot more that goes on beneath the surface, such as outside of who is your target audience. Do you know what stage of the journey that they're in? Maybe they're at the earlier stages, like for example, their startup phase, or maybe they're much further along. Maybe
Right.
they're at that stage where they're looking to scale and expand. That already helps differentiate it a little bit more. And
Right.
then if we dig a few layers deeper, it's like, okay, well, do you know what they want? Like ultimately, what is it that they want? And what's stopping them from getting the thing that they want?
Right.
And what are the problems that come up as a result of them not getting the thing that they want? And there's like a lot of questions that you can ask to really peel back the layers and actually see if you do have a deep understanding of who your audience is. Because
Right.
at the get-go, yes, it's very easy to say, I know who it is I'm looking to attract. But
Right.
when you actually ask these questions, and I realize this because I did this even for myself after like
Same.
a good long while of running the
Same.
same message too. Something wasn't connecting. And when I asked myself these specific question,
Right.
specifically, what is it that my customers want? I realized that I was unclear because I had an idea of the many different things that they could want, but I didn't know what the main one was. And it
Right.
took a lot of trial and error, and honestly, a lot of me just asking people. Like, I got to this
Right.
point where I
Right.
felt so caught up in my own head. I'm like, all right, girl, you're making assumptions. Just go out there, find people who would be your target audience, and just ask them, like, what
Yeah.
is your biggest branding related challenge?
Yeah.
And if you let me know, I'd be happy to like support you in that in some capacity. And yeah, like it's crazy. Like you don't know until you ask, because
Hmm.
oftentimes I find that we're living with a lot of our own assumptions, especially as the service provider.
Okay. Well, thanks for doing this. I think we can wrap it up there. That's 20 minutes of just over 20 minutes of live discussion for people to work through. And so thanks for doing this. And I'm sure I'll get a chance to see you next week at Connect and Collaborate on Wednesday. So we'll talk
Yes.
to everybody soon. I'm just going to shut down the stream.